Hello, my people. Um, this is Omole, and this is another episode of Tech Bytes by Technext, where we bring you everything exciting about the tech space in Africa and indeed across the globe. I know this is the first time you are seeing my face, but don't worry, I'm going to be a very good boy. Um, David is unavailable, and with me is Dami. I just don't like to hear Dami's voice, but yeah, we have to.
Hi everyone. Good morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to
Do you
Tech
see what
Bytes.
Dami is doing? Yeah, so I'm sure you know that the only thing that has trended this week is
Mhm.
FTX. I'm sure
It's
if you
been a
don't know
big one.
FTX in the last 2 years or since when they started, you would have known FTX in at least the last 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and it's because of what has happened. They've declared bankruptcy. We'll get to that later. Um, on our last episode, we talked about the back and forth between FTX and Binance. Binance wanted to buy
FTX,
FTX.
Big Brother.
Yeah, but something happened and they pulled out of the bailout. Um, but yet, a lot of money has been lost, and we are hearing a lot of things about the FTX. The owner, getting loans, personal loans, the
Mm.
the directors buying houses. It's
It's
a
a whole
lot.
lot.
It's a lot. But
Yeah.
Dami, what do you think?
I mean, the trust for the crypto space has taken a huge punch, right? But I feel like in the next few months or years, we would get back to where we were. Uh, I mean, it's crypto winter currently, all right, but we'll still get back to summer. The sun will shine again.
Amen.
All right. So, aside news, in this episode, will be, taking you through, as usual, 10 minutes of around the world of tech. And then we'll be having an interview with an icon in the tech industry in Nigeria, Mr. Austin Okere, the founder of CWG Plc, on the importance of corporate governance in tech. All right, I'm sure you'll find this episode very, very interesting. And if you have not followed us, please do. Apple Podcasts, Google News, Google Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere. Just find us. It's Tech Byte, and you should subscribe now.
Yeah. Don't. This episode is sponsored by Whitebit, a crypto exchange. You can just check them out on www.whitebit.com. Whitebit is spelled WHITEBIT.
All right.
.com.
Now to the news. Binance to start recovery fund for crypto project. So Binance wanted to buy FTX.
Yeah.
And they saw the books, and the books was not making sense.
Like,
and
what are you doing here?
and they pulled out of the deal.
Yeah.
But one thing they've now done is they want to start a project, like a crypto recovery fund for projects who run into trouble like FTX did, so that they can bail them out. And some crypto
Godfather.
giants, right, have come out to also pledge support for this. I mean, you have Justin, son of Tron, and some other crypto projects have come out to say, yes, we would be pitching into this. What do you think? I mean, is this a good step?
I mean, if you have the resources to actually do something like that, please. A lot of people have lost money. People don't even have. They've lost the value that they placed on their crypto assets has now been reduced to a minimal level. People are no longer. People are afraid now, and it's going to actually affect definitely to affect the crypto space in the next coming weeks, coming months. So if you can actually help. Yes, why not? Be our godfather.
I mean, CZ is planning to be that, and he hopes that this move would help to bring back the positive vibe about the crypto spaces.
We need it.
Yeah, I just also hope that it doesn't bring in people who will mismanage funds again, and because Binance will bail them out.
Well, we don't know what happened at the back end of Binance, but yeah.
we hope it. Okay, moving on. Twitter suspends Twitter Blue, and lots of brouhaha after it. So Twitter said if you pay $8 a month, you would get the verification tick. Yeah. It started, and people started creating parody accounts.
I mean,
there was LeBron James, there was even Elon Musk himself.
A lot of people can afford $8, so yeah.
It's just $8 per month. So people did that, and it caused lots of trouble. Several companies took a hit in their share prices. I mean, you have one of the airlines in America actually took a hit in their share prices and things like that. And Twitter had to stop that. Yeah. And although they plan
a lot of bots, fake accounts,
and everything like that. I think they
I
plan resuming
remember
back.
one that declared a free. I didn't remember the company that declared a free items for everyone, and everybody was like, "Wow, it's happening."
So Musk has also made lots of changes. I mean, there's been lots of resignations by people who work at Twitter, and they are working sacks, of course, and they are working against the clock right now to get it ready for November 29 when they plan to launch back Twitter Blue, and it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot.
But it's actually surprising because when he announced the Twitter Blue, the subscription plan, a lot of people said, "No, why should we pay? That you should be paying us, especially creators. You should be paying us for using Twitter. We are giving you value. You need to give us value. We shouldn't be paying for what we are doing." But it was announced, and a lot of people are
actually paid to get that Twitter.
You paid too, so you have $8.
It's not available in Nigeria yet. But if it were available, maybe. All right. Hopefully, when it launches back, we see a global launch and we are able to tap into it. All right. Moving on. Kenya's Basic Goal raises $6.6 million. Now we're back to raises. It is a very good news for the tech space. I mean,
yes,
we've had lots of sacks, resignations, layoff, and everything. Now, someone is raising a huge amount of money, right? And the fund was led by Toyota's venture capital arm, Mobility 54, and it is to provide electric buses for public transport systems in Kenya and the rest of Africa, which is good. I just imagine Danfo being an electric bus.
What?
What? It would be great.
There's one time I said Danfo NURTW should have customer service, and one person was like, "You be the better person to Minister of Petroleum." So some Nigerians. Anyway, it's actually good because at the beginning of this year, we were very optimistic about the African tech space. We're going to get up to $5 billion this year, but mid-year, since the investors
started.
Exactly. Our own winter started early, but it was a global thing, but it affected Africa mostly because we don't know why, but investors were drawing back. So if you are seeing news like this, yeah, we should be happy.
Yeah, so the buses will come in 25, 36-seater capacities, all right, with a range of about 250 kilometers, enough to cover our daily round trips. That's huge. That's huge. All right, so Basic Goal, all the best. Moving on, Modus launches $75 million fund for blockchain and AI startups in Africa. All right, Modus is a New York-based venture platform, and they've launched, and to support African AI and blockchain startups with $75 million. The fund will be completed in Q1 2023, which could be January, February, or March.
Yeah.
And they hope to invest in 45 startups. That is huge.
Interesting. I remember we wrote an article, Technext wrote an article about AI and why Africa needs
to be a part of the trend.
Yeah, so this will actually encourage something like that. We cannot be left behind every time.
But $75 million is huge across 45 startups. So that's an average.
To encourage people who have the ideas, people who already have the platforms, to do better than they're currently doing. Yeah.
So is it the best time to start an AI startup now? So you can tap into the money. All right. So the fund is led by two general partners, Vianney and Andre, and they are veterans of the African startup ecosystem. All right. But another interesting thing is the fund is not just focused on the VC firm. Is not just focused on AI and blockchain. All right. The firm is also closing other investments to support insurtech, fintech, of course, and health tech. So that's a good one. African tech, get ready. Next year is going to be money, money, money.
Amen.
It's raining.
Amen.
All right. So remember, this podcast is sponsored by Whitebeat, and you can check them out. So yeah, Rui, over to you.
Okay. Our topic for today is from the garage to the boss, the role of corporate governance in tech. Last Tuesday, FTX rival Binance, announced its intention to acquire FTX, but pulled out. After Binance pulled out, FTX announced that it had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. That was on November 11.
Okay.
And the story that
the
stories that have come out since then have been quite. I wanted to use amazing in a negative way. The CEO and Sam Bankman-Fried
Got fried.
the one that fried the the FTX empire. He stepped down as CEO, and now we have a new CEO, John Ray, who is trying to, revive what is left of the FTX empire. Since then, FTX corporate governance has come under intense scrutiny. I mean, the US has the US
Invited
SEC,
some
even
Recording in progress.
Singapore.
Yeah, Singapore.
Said
yeah.
they invested and now
Yeah.
they've lost money.
Yeah. So yes, FTS corporate governance has come under scrutiny, as we already said, for its small and insulated circle of decision makers, and for the fact that the company notably does not have a board of directors. I mean, one of the things John Ray said is that the board of directors never have meetings. So it
was
there's-
non-existent.
if the board is non-existent, how are they going to have any kind of meetings? According to CEO and founder of venture capital, social capital, talked about FTX. That's his name is Pali Hapitia, and Bankman Fried's red flags in an episode of the All In podcast hosted by him, Jason, and David. According to him, Bankman Fried pitched social capital while raising a 17 billion round. After his own meeting with Bankman Fried, Pali Hapitia said he didn't make much sense. So it means that
The flags were there.
there's so many red flags. So yeah, his team at Social Capital worked on a 2-page deck of recommendations for the next step for FTX if the investment talks were to proceed. FTX wasn't interested in making the changes, Paliapitia said. Industry analysts are debating the possibility of the epic failure that FTX became, and formidable backers such as Temasek and Sequoia could have stopped some basic oversight, but at least they now have a chance to never make the same sloppy mistakes again. To talk about this, the whole FTX drama, the saga, the amazing stories, amazing in a negative way, again is Mr. Austin Okere. And as I said, the topic will be from the garage to the boss, the role of corporate governance in tech. It has become so important now that we have seen a big
So tech guys
tech
are
company,
running
yeah.
on it.
Yeah. So yeah, Mr. Okere, you're welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was enjoying all the news bits that you were dishing out.
Yeah.
We thought you will be our newscasters for the next 10 minutes. Yeah. So yeah, the first question is some industry experts believe that with the mass sacks and the business closures, the global economy is experiencing a repeat of the dot-com meltdown. Do you think this is just what usually happens? There will be a downward
A winter.
spiral, then an upward spiral. Do you think that's what is happening?
Quite honestly, if you look very deep into history, you will find these cycles. The question is the length of the cycle and the amplitude of the cycle. Throughout history is always boom and bust. And it's not going to be different now. Neither is it going to be different going into the future. Sometimes the cycle is short. So you find that the boom happens and the bust comes maybe 5 years after. Sometimes it can be 10 years after. Sometimes it can be 15 or 20 years. But there is always a cycle. The question is, what is the length of the cycle? The first question is that. And the second question is, what is the depth of the cycle? In other words, how deep is the bust and how large was the boom? It's nothing strange. It's always been in history.
That's good. So, talking about the bust and boom in terms of new companies. So one thing that industry analysts have said is that the new tech companies that we have, they are running unhinged. I mean, startup CEOs are doing crazy things that they should not be doing.
Really crazy.
But there's no oversight. People are not really managing. Everybody's focused on the innovation. So we are kind of like having, according to guys, an overdose of innovation and a lack of management. Is this something you agree with? And is corporate governance going to make any difference in this situation?
an overdose of innovation and a lack of management. Let us look at it in perspective. You have the three elements that make up that your innovation trip. So you have the visionary, which is usually the hustler, which we call the entrepreneur, which is what I was. So the visionary sees more than anybody else, sees further, and then sees before anybody else. But it also is complemented by the technology guru who helps to make sense of the vision and putting it into a product that can generate revenue and building it out. Then you have obviously someone looking after the money and the operations. These three are the tripod on which a startup is built. When the startup gets off the ground and it's gotten to a point where it's going to be institutionalized, it's going to be, many startups fail, but this one is not. It's gotten to a point where it's even raised money, which means that it has a value proposition that is attractive to investors. The next thing you have to think about is oversight. An oversight that is impartial, an oversight that will guarantee sustainability. So let me break it down. A lot of people believe I started the company, so I own the company, and they become superstars of the companies they founded. The truth is that nobody owns the company in the same way that you do not own the children you birth. They have a birth certificate that says, I'm Austin Okere, I'm an individual of my own, but I have oversight over me when I was young by my parents. The company C of O is their birth certificate. And the birther of that company is not the owner. The company is then looked after by what we call a board of directors, which keep the management in check and help them in terms of the blind spots that they miss. And when that balance is not there, then you have the situation that you are calling lack of management. What it really is a lack of corporate governance.
Yeah, so it's good that you mentioned board of directors. This is the best time to actually talk about that. So what is exactly the use of a board when you already have skilled entrepreneurs in the company who even started the company? Yeah,
and everything.
What's the use of a board?
I think that question has been answered way back in the history of organizations. Why do I say that? When Adrian Cadre was defining corporate governance, it was very clear that there are interests of all stakeholders that need to be held. And those stakeholders go beyond the company, the founder, the management. It also today includes environment, social, and governance. It includes the community. It includes investors. It includes the banks that lend money to the organization. How do we maintain this balance of stakeholders? The shareholders of the company have to then elect a board that is like the soul of the company, who then work with the management to balance all these stakeholders. If that balance is not there, then one suffers and one gains. You just talked on the news about FTX. So the founder has gained, which is Sam Bankman-Fried, but the investors have lost. And that is not a balance. And the new CEO got there and said there's absolutely no corporate governance. Especially now where there is a lot of money chasing innovation. You find that young companies, they take a capital raise as an end in itself. and they celebrate it on social media. Some of them will launch their latest car, move into their house in Banana Island that they just bought. But the capital raise is just 20% of the journey if you want to measure it. It's a means to an end. The end is a sustainable business that can return the capital that was put in the business. And the rule of thumb is that if I put in $10 million, I'm expecting 3 times of that, which is $30 million in 5 years.
Wow.
So you have to understand the difficulty of the situation and not just celebrate the race. In fact, it's the beginning of a very hard road to travel.
Okay, so when you were talking about having a board, you mentioned stakeholders, community, bank, investors, and things like that. So the issues many entrepreneurs have, or some entrepreneurs now have, is that when you have this board, mostly it's filled with people, you know, maybe from the older generation, people that were not there in that small garage where the dream and idea of the startup was birthed and things like that. And, you know, in some instances, they always have, you know, bias, political inclinations,
Even
things like that,
personal.
even personal ones. And this might stifle innovation. And, you know, so we've seen in instances where these founders populate their board with their friends, their families, even people that they are close to, that they know they can maybe have some sort of control over and things like that. How would you address these fears?
You see, it's not compulsory, not required, that the members of your board started in the garage with you. In fact, that is probably too incestuous to be meaningful. You see things from the same perspective. If that happens, then we begin to echo each other's opinion. We are the same. What we want is diversity. And that diversity was what Steve Jobs did when he brought Scully into Apple. And he said, listen, I'm an entrepreneur. You've managed a business for quite a long time. You have experience in managing an institution. Come and manage Apple, even though eventually they fell out. It's the same reason that made Larry Page and Sergey Brin bring in Eric Schmidt, who was a seasoned manager, to manage Google. Today, look at where Google is. Of course, Schmidt was not with them in the garage when they were starting.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that boards are filled with friends and relatives. That is also wrong. The people that you should invite to your board are people that will add value in diverse areas. So if you're a technology company, you probably need someone on your board who is good with legal, IP law. You need probably someone who is good with people, empathy, compassion, which are the new lexicon coming into the business dictionary. You probably need someone who is very good with institution building. He's done it before. You certainly don't need friends and relatives. If anything at all, those are the ones you avoid, definitely because of the subjectivity. You probably need people that can call it the way it is, rather than pander to
so these
your
are
sentiments.
experienced. They're going to be experienced people then. So how would you manage paying all these people? You know, because of their experience, at least. So it means that their pay cannot be, you know, it cannot be normal. So yes, how as a startup, how do you think they should manage?
I mean, with the fact that you still have management team again, that you are paying COO and people like that, head of something.
So how would you manage paying these people?
I do not think that the board is interested in their main reason for joining is financial. If that is the main reason why they are joining you, then they are not qualified to be on your board. These are sort of mentors. These are people that see your purpose, buy into your dream, and want to help for that dream, you know, to scale and to scale to sustainability. Some of them may not even take any salary or any board fees for the first few years. And you have to understand that thinking that something is expensive does not mean it's expensive when you have not tried it. The board fees is just one amount which you pay annually. It can be any amount. It can be 100,000, it can be 200,000, which you pay annually. Then every time the board meets, which is typically once a quarter, you pay a sitting allowance. It can be 20,000, it can be 15,000. So if you take 4 meetings at 20,000, that's 100,000. Then if you take their board fees, which is one that you pay annually at 100,000, that's 200,000. For the wealth of experience that that man is bringing, I think it is worth considering. And most times they don't even take it. It's when the business can afford it, the business is doing well, that can pay them more, then you pay them more, just to appreciate the effort as well.
Okay. That makes sense. But for many founders, all right, in the initial stages of the startup, it's just ship products, right? You want to code the product, you want to develop a service, and your engineering team push, you dish it out, you push to market, it starts growing. It's quite unclear at what point the board has to step in. So for many, what we see around us is when it's at the point of IPO, you hear they are setting up a board, or they are about to launch into a new country. You hear they set up a board, or they are trying to get a license, maybe some CBN kind of license in Nigeria or something. You hear, oh, we're setting up a board to do this. So at what point exactly would you advise that startup founders consider setting a board? Right. At what point exactly?
Actually, you are very correct that these significant events is what pushes the people that found a company to go and begin to set up a board. That is the wrong time. That's like working from answer to question. And that's when you get all the undesirables in your board, because you are in a hurry just to get some people together in order to meet that condition. I think that you set up a board as soon as you can, as soon as you can. And that board should not be a rubber stamp board where you just take things to them to sign. They don't even query, they don't give you any advice, they don't give you any perspective. Neither should it be an interference board, because some boards are like management, they're overbearing. There has to be a balance of strategic oversight and financial oversight. And that should be done as soon as you can, not when you are in a situation where you need to quick form a board. You get the wrong people.
Yeah. So for a tech founder who wants to, form a board, what would you advise should be the composition, the quality? You mentioned legal, you mentioned IP. What would you advise, tech founders to at least the you mentioned experience too, but what should be the composition and quality of
criteria kind of thing?
Yeah.
I think a board should be diversified. You have to make sure that all the voices are at the table. I think we need experience. I think we need gender balance so that we can see it from both perspectives. If it is a young company, it's good to get an older person to be there, because they know where we're coming from, even though the young people know where we're going to. We need both. So you need old, young, you need male, female, then you need the capability, the speciality that each person is coming with. So do you have strong legal in the team? If not, then you probably need one. Do you have strong people person, because the company is run by people, and if you don't get the people right, I mean, if I look at what is happening at Twitter, I feel so sad for that company and even for Elon Musk. It shows that there's just no people person in the board. I don't even think that there's any board holding Elon Musk.
I'm sure there's
in
any
check.
board currently.
And that is why you probably will find that you ride into a ditch. So it answers your question.
That makes sense. All right. I think that brings us to the end. I don't know if you have any last words for startup founders and entrepreneurs.
Especially on the topic of corporate governance.
Yes.
My first advice is that before you raise money, make sure you know what you want to use the money for. Make sure that you have a plan of paying back that money in the currency which you took it. Secondly, note that that money is not a grant. You have to pay back 3 times of what you took in 5 years. Thirdly, know that that money you've raised is not the end in itself. It's a means to an end. The 3 things that sustain me: one, willpower. I always say this. Know so much and all that you can learn about your area that you can create innovative products at competitive state. 2 is willpower. Work hard. If you fall down 7 times, stand up 8. If people say give up, Austin, go the extra mile. And the third thing, have patience. It's not when you plant a fruit, the next day you start reaping. That's what our young entrepreneurs also need to learn. Wait power, patience. When you plant a fruit, it first dies, then it germinates, then it bears fruit. So you eat at the fruit level. Don't eat your seed.
Interesting. Weight power.
Weight
I
power.
just learned that one.
Don't get
Weight
that Tesla now.
Weight power. Thank you so much, Mr. Austin Okere. Everyone, that was Mr. Austin Okere, the founder and CEO of CWG. We talked about corporate governance. And Dan, you want to, do like a recap of what happened today?
Oh, today we've talked about FTX, we've talked about Basic Go, we've talked about modulus, we've talked about corporate governance, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some tips from corporate governance
From Mr. Austin
from
Okere.
Mr. Austin Okere, and that was very nice. I've learned a lot. Maybe I might just become
At least I'm going on with
entrepreneur.
weight power. Now that I'm
I
telling
might just become an entrepreneur in the next few weeks. I said I didn't want to become one, but who knows?
you'll start off with fall.
Wow.
Thank you everyone for listening in and watching from wherever you are. My name is Omole and this is
Damn Larry.
I don't like to hear his voice anyway.
If you've not subscribed, please subscribe. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google, we're on Amazon, Samsung. Come on, what's your excuse?
Like, what's the excuse? So once again, this is Tech Bytes by Technext. This is a weekly podcast show, and we'll be doing it live now, starting from started this week. We'll continue that next week, so you can join us on Facebook Live or YouTube Live.
All right.
I will share the link anytime or before we start the
Just
show.
subscribe and
So you
follow
just-
us on YouTube.
Exactly. So you won't see it. Yeah.
All right,
Thank you
guys.
again.
Thank you very much. See ya next week. Ciao.
Peace out.